Welcome back to the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Also, I would like to address a few things. I keep getting comments from people telling me that I sound retarded or whatever, and that they don't like the way I sound and that it's hard to get scared with a voice like mine. All I have to say about that is if you don't like the way I do the fucking stories, then don't listen to the goddamn video. I don't really give a fuck at this point. Also, for anyone that's interested, I have a music project that I'm working on with Stalker. It's called Invoking Darkness. You can look it up, Nocturnal Studios YouTube channel. Also, getting back to the thing about my voice sounding terrible and yada yada yada. The fact that I have to do this every single week, 5 times a week, and you expect me to sound a certain way when oftentimes I'm extremely fucking tired and I don't have the energy to be sitting here doing this. You think that it doesn't take energy. A lot of y'all just think that, we just get on here and we record and we go about our day. You don't think about all of the time and the effort that it takes to actually sit down in front of a fucking computer and sit here and do these goddamn stories. And sometimes these stories are written so horribly that no matter how you read them, they come out sounding really stupid and they make you sound stupid as fuck. It's not my fault that the stories are written poorly. Anyway, whatever. On with the stories. This took place in 2005 or 2006 in the panhandle of Florida, because all bad things happen in Florida. During that summer, I was driving with my girlfriend and my best friend Martin. He was in the back seat and we were driving to the mall playing some stupid fucking game that no one's ever heard of. Well, Martin was late on the call and had to make sex noises for being last. Martin was a varsity football player and on the wrestling team, but also the most hardcore punk class clown I'd ever met. Yeah, of course he was, because they're always like that, aren't they? You never knew what he was going to do. Of course not. And we usually ended up in a lot of trouble. Anyway, it's his turn and he yells out the window to some random guy standing in the median, "Who the bitch?" instead of sex noises. At the same time, I'm pulling into a gas station, and while I'm pumping gas, the dude from the median walks up and asked if he could get a ride to his house. He says he locked his keys in his car while it was running and lived on the beach about 4 miles away. He offered us $40 for gas. I talked it over with Martin and my girlfriend to see if they were cool with it. The guy looked sophisticated and dressed nicely, and we were in a nice area, so we agreed, but for $60, because we're cheapskates and we like to overprice people, so we could split the money 3 ways. So he gets in the back with Martin, and he's really chill all the way up to the point of getting to his house. He gets out and wanders around the house a few minutes and pops out of nowhere with a ladder. Says his house key is with his car. So we were like, yeah, sounds legit. So he goes in through a back window on the 2nd floor. 10 minutes later, the dude comes barreling out the front door with jewelry, cash, and a bunch of other random shit. He's running to our car, jumps in and holds a knife up and tells us to drive or he'll cut our goddamn throat. It took about 2 seconds to process what he said, and we were kind of laughing, and then he cuts Martin's arm and starts screaming at us, "Bad move, dude. Martin whipped this dude's ass." Yeah, I'm sure he did. Martin opens the door and pushes the guy out while I'm driving. We just keep going and never said anything to anyone about it. We got our money, and dude got his ass kicked, so yeah, that's my creepy encounter. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I didn't. About 5 years ago, when I was waiting for an Alaskan Airlines flight in SCA Airport at one of the gates, I had a while before the flight, so I decided to wait at a gate that was quieter. As I sat, a backpacker girl with stretchy pants and a jacket, probably in her early 20s, came and sat a couple of seats from me and lay down on the chairs, with her legs going opposite of me. Short time later, an old white TSA guy in a uniform sat at the seat on the other side of her and started to read his newspaper. I figured he was on break. I scanned my area, as I do periodically because I'm paranoid as fuck, like always in every story, when I noticed the TSA guy wasn't really reading his newspaper, but was looking through the bottom of the newspaper at the girl's crotch. Of course he was, because why else would he be doing anything else? From the time he sat down, oh my god, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My instinct kicked in and I told the girl to sit up and told her about the creep. Of course you did, because you're so brave. She sat up and then the guy folded his newspaper and then walked off. I was so creeped out by the whole thing and stunned for the girl, plus the general public. I am glad I was able to pull the girl out of the creepiness, but in hindsight I wish that I would have been more of a Karen and asked to speak to the manager. One of my earliest memories when I was about 4 years old is of waking up in the middle of the night because someone would be calling my name. As strange as it may sound, I would just ignore the voice in the dark. At this young age, and in the sleepy state I would always find myself in, I guess I just believed it to be a dream. This would happen a few times a month in the beginning. The voice would come and chant, "Jose, Jose." I would wake up and eventually fall back asleep. As time passed, I began to realize that the morning following these episodes, there would always be a plate of tacos on the window outside of my room that me and my brother, Alejandro, shared. There, wedged between the glass and the steel security bars, would be 5 neatly arranged carne asada tacos on a white paper plate. More than anything else, I can vividly remember the flies. The sight of the swarm of flies that covered the plate was nauseating. It was a disgusting, abnormal thing. Not a single bird chirped when Mrs. Watson finally went into labor. The family trees were now shadowy arms with long fingers that tapped against the windows in the dark night. The night shook in sorrow on the baby that was to come. Although he was not a doctor, Mr. Watson pressed down hard on his wife's belly, his face beaded with sweat. "Push," he whispered. Flanking him were 2 young, worried boys. They held silver buckets in their hands that were filled with blood. Mrs. Watson moaned. The bed sheets were dried, a dark crimson. "Push." At long last, the blood-soaked baby slid out. It began to wail. Mr. Watson took a pair of scissors from the table and carefully snipped off the umbilical cord. But still it continues to wail, louder than a siren could. Mrs. Watson beckoned the boys to come over. They gathered around the bed, stared at their new baby brother with wide eyes. Meet your new baby brother, Matthew. The baby continued to wail. It was getting unbearable. So Mr. Watson snatched his newborn son from his wife's hands. His hand wrapped around the baby's neck and twisted. The baby immediately stopped wailing. Only 2 children per family. It's for the greater good, he said with a stone face. His eyes were empty. His wife's face was turning red. Her lip trembled. She stared at her 2 older boys, who was watching her like a pair of lost souls. It's for the greater good, she managed, tears streaming down her cheeks. There was a knock on the door. The collectors had arrived with their basket. The baby Matthew was dropped inside without a word. It sprawled on the other collections like a limp rag doll. The collectors bowed. "Thank you for your donation," they said in unison. "It's for the greater good. It's for the greater good," the whole family echoed in one. The old wooden door quietly slid shut behind them. The basket bumped in the back seat of the car as the collectors made their way through beautiful open country, where trees stood tall and ravens cawed. All the way to the food factory, a large gray beast, which coughed out smoke and hewed and hummed. The next day, the Watsons received their daily rations: oil, rice, vegetables, and milk, and a packet of fresh pink minced meat, still shining with blood.